Here are 5 dating red flags you shouldn't ignore. 1. He cancels with no plans to reschedule. 2. He hates all of his exes. This is a sign that he picks poorly, is crazy, doesn't know how to be accountable, or just doesn't know how to move on peacefully. 3. He wants to keep you a secret. 4. He is too romantic too soon. If he talks about you being the one on the first week, it could be that he is just desperate, lonely, and needy. 5. He is too busy. Beloved, we are all busy. If this is a constant excuse, then you are just not on his radar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Nicholas Snow Show on PromoHomo.TV. Since I am Nicholas Snow, I guess that means it's my show. My guest today, Byron Jamal, he wrote the book Dating Men, the inclusive guide to find, attract, and keep the man you deserve. And one of the things he says is people who love themselves attract good men who want to love and cherish them. One of the most fascinating aspects of this book to me, I haven't read the book yet. I've done a lot of research about the book, but the reason I became aware of Byron's messaging in social media is not only the book, but his message, in particular the book, it's targeting anyone who dates men. So if you're a man who's dating men, if you're a woman who's dating men, if you're gender fluid who's dating men, this book is for you. And I think that that's just a really fascinating approach and a hopeful approach, that we can focus on the same substance that is about our humanity and not all these other labels that are sometimes wanted and needed for us to navigate the world. So that's what fascinates me about the book, but the man behind the book is pretty fascinating as well, as you're going to learn coming up. So you're going to want to stay tuned for Byron. He's in the green room. I've had a little chat with him already, and I'm looking forward to having a deeper dive with him in a moment. For their support of my show, I want to thank DAP Health, serving Riverside County in California, keeping me alive, living powerfully with HIV for 10 years. Actually, I've been living with HIV longer, but I've been a client of DAP for 10 years. They serve actually people from all walks of life, regardless of HIV status, and I really appreciate them. For their support, of course, 849 Restaurant and Lounge. Love their food, especially the Blueberry Brie Turkey Monte Cristo, which is only available on the brunch menu. And guess what? I have merch on Amazon now, and if you get the merch and you send me a selfie of you and the merch, I'll feature it on the show with your permission. Now, beginning in June on PromoHomo.TV, I'm doing a limited series focused on my book, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart. It's a Living Powerfully with HIV memoir written as I lived it, and we'll be talking about all kinds of provocative, compelling, even heart-wrenching things that go on in the book. In the book, I talk about the creation of a music video campaign to promote HIV testing and safer sex. And you can ask your smart speaker to play my song, or you can find it on YouTube. And for those of you who are in casting, check out my acting clips, commercials, movies, filmed in different places there. One of the things I've been too subtle in doing is asking you to subscribe to PromoHomo.TV for as little as $3 a month. I opened up this opportunity in October of 2020, and because I know I've been too subtle, I have 3 people doing this so far, but I'd love for you to join them. Here's some more information.
I'll be your light.
Those paparazzi, they get me every time. I also want to let you know to save the date. We know enough about the end of the pandemic, a better period of the pandemic. Hopefully that there will be things happening for Palm Springs Pride, and definitely want you to save the date, and hopefully I will see you there. I'm the official broadcaster, so if you can't be there, you can find all the action at PromoHomo.TV. And I'm going to be back with my special guest right after this. Where is it there?
Yep.
Live your life like a dreamer. Fly all over the world. Open yourself so the world can see. You're a beautiful pearl. Live your day like you mean it. And don't forget who you are. You're free to go anywhere. There's no distance too far.
And if you're watching live, I want you to know that if you ask a question or make a comment during the live broadcast, you might be featured on the show, and definitely featured on my show, my guest today, Byron Jamal. Hey, Byron.
Hey there. Well, good to have you, brother. It's good to be on with you and officially get to talk in real time.
I'm really excited about it. I really loved I love the energy that you put out in your social media. But one of the things that really grabbed my attention was that you were putting out content that was about finding authentic love and connection that transcended sexual orientation.
Yes.
In terms of the way that you wrote the book. How did you decide to write that book?
Well, it's one of those things that was truly important to me as a bisexual man. I understand that sex and sexuality is only a small portion of who we really are. Truthfully, we are more spiritual beings than actually physical beings. And when we really understand the true depth of who we are, we will not focus so much on the things that don't mean so much. Honestly, when we're first born, we don't know whether we're a man or a female. We don't know if we're black or white. We don't know what religious affiliation we will come into. We don't know what kind of political affiliation we'll be assigned to. All we know when we come into this world is that we are who we are, that we have this body, that we have this vessel, and that we are loved. The first thing you are ever is loved. And that's why it's so important for me to go back to the origins and the foundations to help people realize that if we can connect on the foundational level, the rest can work itself out.
That's just gorgeous. You know, the other thing that I really appreciate is that there are people who've written advice books, but they don't have a really deep life experience. And you have a very deep life experience. For example, you say on your website, I'm quoting you, I had an admirable job, professional recognition, a busy social life. My social media accounts were filled with pictures of events, travel, and achievements. People would tell me I had it all, but secretly I thought, if only you knew. I had a crippling lack of self-esteem and had used food, sex, and alcohol to numb myself for years. Do you know I could have written the exact same quote?
You know, I can attest that when many of my clients come to me, it is exactly the same. More people are dealing with things that in secret than they will ever share. There are more people that could write best-selling books about their life story than we may ever hear. But the truth is that my story is not the only one. And just like you, brother, so many people out there are wrestling with things of low self-esteem, low self-confidence, not really respecting who they are, not really honoring their journey, and really feeling like the mistakes they've made in their past disqualify them from authentic and amazing love. And I'm so honored today to just be the type of person who can tell my story with ease and with transparency.
Well, the other thing I just want to acknowledge is that the obvious is that you are a black man, but what people may not know is all of the added layers of challenge that exist, especially around embracing and celebrating one's sexual identity. There are a whole different mix of challenges around just that issue, among so many more that thankfully we're becoming more aware of as a broader society.
Yes.
To what extent did those sorts of secrets impact, for example, your relationship with food, your relationship with sex, your relationship with alcohol?
Well, growing up in the black church is one of those things where you literally are beat down and called a demon if you are in any way attracted to the same sex. So not just that you are a bad person or an immoral person, but you are demonic, and that's a whole nother level of trauma. Coming out of that and finding my own voice and finding my own self. It took a journey. It took a hard journey, but it took even coming through where I attempted suicide in my high school years. The truth is that stuff lingers with you. And as a black man who is spreading a universal message about love, it's not always so easy to be the face of love as a black man, because I am still a marginalized man. And coming into a space where I'm talking about love, where a lot of people don't see black men as valid advocates for love. Maybe a love song, maybe an R&B song, maybe something like that, but not like teaching about love. What I find is that it's really fun and exciting to help people remember what I said at the top of this, that we are more alike than different, that we are foundationally born in love, and that we all have the capacity to teach and share unified and universal love.
Well, Cody Renegar is watching live, and he says life will always be better when you don't fight your true nature. He has a great book out himself called Changing the Stars. I want to actually show your book trailer. Now, on the surface, it seems like, oh, I'm being promo-homo and I'm showing his book trailer. That's not the reason that I want to show your book trailer. The reason I want to show your book trailer is that just the way this is created, the messaging that's in it, it just shows a completely different approach and level of understanding when it comes to approaching the subject matter, the way that it is crafted. So now the audience gets to know what I'm talking about. So that's really powerful. How long did that? I know what goes into production and messaging. How long did it take to create that trailer?
It took me a day. I have a lot of lives that I've lived. I literally have lived multiple lives. I've been in politics, I've been in marketing, I've been in nonprofit work, I've been in finance, I've been a pastor. So I've literally like entertainment. I've been in a lot of fields. And that experience, and one of those things that I learned in all of my experiences was doing videography and having a creative mind. So I'm really able to, as an author as well, tell stories, but I've learned how to make them visual as well. So it took me a day to really come up with it. But once I get going, it's fun to make it happen.
Well, very well done. Congratulations. So in a few weeks, I'm going to have my nutritionist on the show, and I've worked with her for the last 2 years, and I've lost 60 pounds.
Ooh, wow.
And I have to laugh because I wish I was having you on this show 2 years after having worked with you to talk about my 2-year anniversary with Mr. Right. But I'm starting my research with you now, so maybe 2 years from now that will be a completely different episode.
I love it.
What are some of the key points you feel universally apply to anyone out there, male, female, gender fluid, any gender identity, that is seeking to date men, what are some of the universal truths that you find exist among that group of people, which is most of all of us, really?
Yes. One of the first things I always say is that you need to go after a man after you've gone after yourself. After you have found yourself and really identified who you are, what you loving yourself, giving yourself an amazing amount of self care. Self care is a privilege. And once you give yourself the right to own that privilege and to walk in it, that's when you can start looking for a man. Honestly, it's hard to find any man if you don't know what is enough, right? So I say this, I liken it unto going car shopping. If you walk in onto a car lot and the car dealer comes out and they say, hey, so what kind of car are you looking for? You say, well, I'm just looking, I'm not sure. I'm just looking for a car. Well, they say, okay, well, do you want two wheels or do you want four? Then they say, what kind of transmission do you want? What color do you want? What amenities do you want? What kind of horsepower do you want? And now this simple process of selecting a car turns into an all-day affair because you didn't know what was enough for you. And so knowing what is enough, being clear on what it is that you want will help you to find the type of man that fits faster. I say faster because a lot of us spin our wheels staying in that same lot of life, looking for love because we really haven't defined what is enough. Again, let me go deeper into enough because I think this is something we don't talk about enough, which is when you deal with enough, you gotta ask yourself real questions. People say, "Well, I want somebody good looking." Well, how good looking? Do they need to be a 10? Is that the height of it? Is it a 9? Is it an 8? Is 8 enough? Is 7 enough? What about intelligence? What about educational accomplishments? Can they have a high school diploma? Can they have a undergraduate degree? What about a master's or a doctorate? What is enough? They say he has to be wealthy. Well, how much wealth is enough? See, we don't do this in our own lives. And so because of that, we're searching for things continually and never really finding happiness. Then we translate that same activity to finding a mate and finding a man, and we end up finding someone great, but we're not sure if they're enough. So we're looking over their shoulder at other people at the same time. So learning what is enough helps you be confident in what you found once you found it.
Or we can sabotage the situation because we haven't learned to know that we are enough
Yes.
and are worthy of them.
Now that's a whole different story because when you start talking about are you worthy enough, if you look at yourself as a 7, then you will never really ascribe or try to reach someone who you feel is of higher value. As soon as you think they have more value than you will self-sabotage that relationship. You will end up doing things that are contrary to mess it up. And so I've seen that over and over again, even in my own life years ago. I've seen the effects of that where you end up hurting your chances at love because you don't feel you're worthy for it. It's hard. Like imagine someone saying, "I will give you this amazing outfit for you to wear to prom," right? Amazing outfit to wear to prom. And you say, "Well, that outfit is too nice for me." And that is what we ultimately do. Turn down amazing gifts, the gift of love. We turn down amazing gifts because we don't feel worthy for it. Yeah.
So, when I invited you on the show, I didn't know if or how you identified as a member of the LGBTQI plus community. And I didn't need to ask you because right at the top of the show, you talked about being bisexual. There is a great deal of misunderstanding about the existence of bisexuality, and the bisexual community faces a lot of prejudice from all sides, from the whole sexual identity continuum. And I was wondering if you would speak to the truth around that issue.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. This is a topic that needs to be discussed more, especially as a male, because often women can be bisexual with no blinking of the eyes, but men get a lot of criticism around it. The first thing that people think automatically when you say bisexual is confused. Or the other thing is selfish. It's either confused or selfish. Or another way to describe a bisexual person in a negative way is to say that they are probably a sexual addict. They just want to have sex with anything that moves. But the truth of it is that bisexual people just have an understanding of, like myself, that sex and sexuality is something that is smaller than your happiness, than your joy, than what fits. And when you feel like you can love any and everything, what's wrong with that? See, I love vegetables as much as I love meat. I love working out as much as I love laying around. I love the duality of life. And that should be okay. In life, even in the Bible, it talks about there is a time and season for everything. There's a time to weep and a time to celebrate. There's a time for rising. There's a time for setting. There's a duality in life. And to be able to enjoy both, it just means that you are okay with the salt and the pepper, all the seasonings.
Well, after a year of this pandemic, I've become pansexual. It's like, all right, give me anything. So, no, I really appreciate that, and I'm still doing a lot to understand my own relationship to systemic racism and privilege and all of those things. I'm taking my responsibility to do that, and when I have the opportunity to speak with other people that have more direct personal experience about all of these issues, I take advantage of that. In the green room with your publicist before the show, she happened to mention that you're in Atlanta.
Yes.
And what comes to mind is that the emotional roller coaster that you must be on in so many different ways because of what has been transpiring not in our country for your whole lifetime, but greater in my awareness is what has been happening, I guess for the last 6 years, all right? Leading into the Trump administration, the abhorrent high-level fostering of racism and bigotry, the politics of division, the broader awareness of the police violence against Black men in particular, not to mention trans women. There's I say all that not to say that I know the solutions, but I understand the problems more so.
Yeah.
And I would like for you to just talk about how you're coping with all of this and how you are working with your clients as a coach that must be struggling, many of them, around the same issues.
Well, again, another topic that I think is really important when it comes to, as you mentioned, privilege, white privilege. When I go to events and they're predominantly white and they're dealing with gay issues or LGBTQ issues, one of the things that I understand when I talk to friends and colleagues is that there's two different things happening with those in the white community. The fight is more about gaining back what you have lost as a white person, in the sense that you're able to get back more of the power of equality. But minorities are having a different fight. It's a fight that is not only gaining power, but also gaining some stability inside of the actual LGBTQ community as well. We know that there's a traditional pride, and there's the Black pride and the Latin pride. Like there's other but pride is considered more of a all hands on deck, but still led predominantly by white people. So the clients that I serve are all races, but my clients specifically who are dealing with the trauma from the last 6 years are more so those who are minorities, who have seen voting rights infringed upon, those who have seen their aid, whether they're dealing with HIV/AIDS issues or other medical issues, their aid drying up and being swiped away. Now, Ryan White being affected and all those kind of things. So the way that they're dealing with and the way that I'm helping minority people who are LGBTQ plus deal with a lot of the trauma is to remember their power within, to remember that no matter what is going on external of you, you have complete control over the one thing in your life that you were born with and you will die with, and that is your body. You have complete control over your mind. You have complete control over how you feel. You have complete control over how you react. You have complete control over how you respond. And so being able to take back the power within helps you deal with the circumstances, the trials and challenges that are external in your life. And so that's been a pivotal hallmark of what I've been preaching and teaching to my clients and those who follow me on a daily basis, that's helping them to overcome the trauma from the last 6 years.
Well, thank you for being willing to talk about those topics with me. And I am doing everything I can to be an ally. And one of the things I really do see more clearly is I've been involved on the front lines of the LGBTQ civil rights movement since the early 1980s. And I always thought, oh, I'm involved with all of these movements because we're in this together. But looking at this through a historical lens, I thought, oh yes, I might have been with this person and this person and this person at the protest or in the parade contingent.
Yeah.
But when I walk away from that space, I'm a white guy living in a structure that has been built in my favor by oppressing other people. And everyone else is walking out, and if they don't look like me, they're dealing with a completely different level of challenges.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you think about it, you can, as men and women who are white, the ability to be able to put on a mask, if you want to act straight, whatever that is, if you want to act straight, you can still do that. I can't act white. I hate when people say that, acting white, because you can't act white. I still look the way I look no matter what. I will always look the way I look. So if we're going for the same job, or we're going for the same apartment, or we're going for a ticket at a restaurant, or a seat at a restaurant, they may say, hey, you first, and then you, if we have space. So you can wear a mask that's easier to really fit in with. My mask would look crazy because
No, I get it.
As much as I
get
smile, as much as I have positive energy, I'm still at face value, first glance, who I am.
Well, we've gotten into some really deep topics. I want to lighten it up a bit. I've prepared another fun video, so here it goes.
That's good. Here are 5 dating red flags you shouldn't ignore. 1. He cancels with no plans to reschedule. 2. He hates all of his exes. This is a sign that he picks poorly, is crazy, doesn't know how to be accountable, or just doesn't know how to move on peacefully. 3. He wants to keep you a secret. 4. He is too romantic too soon. If he talks about you being the one on the first week, it could be that he is just desperate, lonely, and needy. 5. He is too busy. Beloved, we are all busy. If this is a constant excuse, then you are just not on his radar.
You can't be mad if you're attracting that fish, if that's the bait that you're using that attracts that fish. Why I keep getting trout, Lord? Why I keep getting trout? I'm trying to get some salmon. Well, you don't have salmon bait, but you desperately want some salmon. But that trout bait is working well. You be like, trout, 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 trout. Oh my Lord.
Okay.
Trout, trout.
I had to laugh when I saw that. That was so funny. So earlier in the show, when you were talking about what people are looking for, the car analogy, it's like so many of everything that what someone is looking for is so subjective. It's like one person's 10 is another people's 2.
Yes.
And one person's wealth is another person's poverty.
Yeah.
There's just so many different things, It's like When I was heavy, I would bump into someone that wanted a skinny guy. When I was skinny, I bumped into someone that wants a heavy guy. It's like, so there's all of these things, but so when you're going fishing, it's like there's so many things to know, and being in touch with one's own personal values is important. So just to cite some examples for me, I'm 20 years sober. I don't want to be with someone that has an issue with alcohol.
Yes.
I don't have drugs in my story, but I don't want to be involved with someone that uses drugs recreationally. I am openly HIV positive and undetectable, which means I cannot transmit HIV scientifically. I don't want to be with someone that doesn't understand that and is afraid to have sex with me.
Yes.
I care about the world. I care about other people. I want to be making a difference. I want to be with someone that's generous, not selfish. So these are the sorts of things that are important, what someone's values are. And of course, if we don't have a strong, powerful, genuine physical, sexual attraction, I would just assume that we'd be great friends. Because I would like to maintain my availability for that. And can fulfill my broader needs through deep, meaningful friendships. So what are some of the things that you would say to people about figuring out what kind of bait to put on their hook?
Well, that's great. And I'm glad you shared all of those things with me about what you want. Being clear about one thing first, about who you are, is really how you identify the bait you use. See, who you are attracts location, and location. I know from business that location is everything. So you can't keep going to, like, there's one spot in Atlanta that is known for people, doing all kinds of drugs in the back, and all that kind of stuff, hidden, but still in the back. A lot of those people go there. So you can't keep going there and saying, oh, I don't want anybody who doesn't do drugs. You can't keep going to the bar and say, well, I don't want anybody who has a drinking problem.
Frankly, you could pick someone up in an AA meeting and find out they're not sober. Not that you should be picking people up in AA meetings. I didn't mean to insinuate that.
Meetings and pick people up. No, it's fine. But it is a lot about location. It is a lot of, but who you are. This is the key piece. Who you are attracts who is attracted to you, and oftentimes people will feel your aura, they will feel your energy, your confidence, and they will be attracted to you and sometimes not even know why. You will find that little thing that just grabs them is grabbing them because you have developed enough self-awareness that your light shines brighter. And when your light shines brighter, you can go from a little light bulb to a light in a lighthouse, and you can start shining and attracting bigger things. See, what we're doing now is you may be attracting bicycles, as they're going down the side street. You may be attracting little cars, but what you want to attract is big boats that can carry some things, that can handle the weight of who you are. And in order to do that, your light has to be bigger. So you'll find that a lot of my messaging comes back to self, because we think that all these little tips and tricks that we can do to manipulate people to find us and like us, a lot of that you can bypass if you simply develop yourself. If you simply do the work of really going through who you are, discovering on a greater level your truth, your story, and what you really need to make you happy. I think we've grown up in a society where we just lie to ourselves over and over and over again. The things you want, you want. It's okay to want them. I promise you somebody else will too. And when you find them, you'll be happy, but it's okay if they don't want you. This fear of rejection, get over it. Move on into a space where you say, thank you for letting me know you don't like me. I'm not wasting my time. And when you do that, you'll move on to the next one and find the one that fits.
I brought up your website because I want people to see how much you have going on there, and you actually have at least 6 books by my count. I was
Yes.
wondering if you would speak to the broader scope of your work.
Sure. So each book is very near and dear to my heart. My first book was my novel. It was entitled Unlovable. It's about a pastor, a stripper, and an athlete who all have different issues that make them feel unlovable. And it's how they journey to find themselves and each other. And yes, I said a pastor, a stripper, and an athlete, 3 different people. It's written in the voice of Crash. So it's like 3 different stories that all converge. And that book is one of my favorites. It was my first book. And so I was 22 when I wrote it, 23 when I put it out as my very first book. My next book was The Call Path, which is the one hiding in the back right-hand corner there. The Call Path, A Journey into Love. And in that, I talk about all of us having a calling, and that calling lived out on a unique path. I take from the biblical perspective that the world was created and then we were. So the path is created and then you're put on the path to live it out. So your job is really to discover, then navigate and achieve. And as you do that DNA process, as we're doing right now, the conversation, we met each other, right? So discovery, navigation is the conversation, and achievement is what's ultimately learned and developed through the conversation. So we're all going through DNA processes all the time, but being aware of it helps us to really master it. Then I have my book on unlovable affirmations. I did a 30-day affirmation book to help people attract love into their lives. And so that's book number 3. Then I did Successful Love, which I call my love Bible. It walks through the 6 phases of love. So it goes from singleness, dating, relationships, engagement, marriage, and divorce. Handles all topics. So if you're dealing with any phase of that, it addresses any concerns you have about those. That's why I call it my love Bible, because it hits you on every level. And then I did my 7 Steps to Ultimate Self-Love. That book was important because I share examples from my clients, but also my own story of dealing with depression and suicidal attempts, and really finding who I am. And so that book is really, as I was writing it, it really helped my life and helped me change my life. I always encourage even my clients to get that book as we're doing our work together. And then my most recent book is Dating Men, The Inclusive Guide on How to Find, Attract, and Keep, because that's important, keeping the man you deserve. And I say the man you deserve with a lot of passion, because it is important to find not just something, but something that fits your life. It is what you deserve, not just what you desire.
So I would be fired by my producers if I wasn't my own producer. If I didn't ask you, are you single? Are you dating? How are you applying all of this in your own life?
Yes. So throughout the course of the books, I had different stages. Currently, I am dating, but throughout some of the courses of the books, I was single. In my earlier phases, right when I was doing Successful Love, I entered into a relationship. In the last 3 books, I've been in one.
Okay, I'm going Barbara Walters now. So are you dating a man or a woman or someone that doesn't identify as either or both?
Definitely a man. Definitely a man.
Okay, you are definitely a man right now.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to remember what that's like. So no. No, the reality is, I joke, but I think it's really, here's my take. I think that we have to know what our own life's purpose is, to follow our personal passions, to do the deep, intense spiritual work that we need to do to show up and live our best lives. And now I'm living my best life. And what I've learned is whether or not I'm in a relationship with someone is not an indicator of my best life.
No.
My best life is here. It's now. It's happening. It's unfolding magically. And it's really an amazing experience because I get to talk with people like you.
Well, I'm enjoying it. And let me just wipe all of that stigma away from singleness. You know, it is so important in a real way that we wipe away the single stigma, because the truth is that if you are not, and I say this all the time, singleness is supposed to be selfishness. You're supposed to focus heavily on you, discovering yourself, learning yourself, gaining more self confidence and awareness so that you can confidently present yourself to someone. I also like to say that when you walk into a relationship and you don't know who you are, you're presenting a character. And it's like an actor. So you're presenting a character. That means the person is learning someone who you are not. So give people the freedom to learn you by you first learning you and loving you. That is the most healthy relationships that you can enter into. And lastly, with that thought, people want to date people who enjoy their lives. People want to date people who are already having a good time, already love who they are. You should be wanting to welcome someone into your joy, not someone into your desperation, not someone into your misery, not someone into your loneliness. So get your life, have fun, get some friends, be around your family, develop a circle of people that you can just love the life that you have while you're single, because then you'll be more attractive to someone on the back end. When they enter your life, they're like, hey, I definitely want to jump into this party.
Well, that works for me. Thank you so much. I would like to do some kind of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
My regular friend, he's my long-term friend and regular viewer, Paul, is loving all of this. So I understand why you wouldn't name a specific program, but did you rely on 12-step work with your issues around food, sex, and alcohol?
So I actually did not. Because as a former pastor, what I did was I applied a lot of what I counseled people in my office. I had to go back and read my own notes, had to go back and do their own work. Sometimes people don't realize the healer needs healing. And sometimes you can say things in a spiritual way, or in a wisdom can speak through you that you may not be applying in your own life. And so I had to go back, take my own medicine that I was giving out, and I was able to really do the work. Now, I do know that as it's, still studying the 12 steps, that a lot of my work does center around that. In fact, when I parallel my 7 steps to ultimate self-love and my work, both start with the first step, acceptance. So there is correlation, because let's be honest, truths are universal. True, you may frame them differently. You may break them down into 12 versus 7, but the truth is all contained. If it works, it works. And that's a beautiful thing. But yes, it was, but it wasn't.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you was about depression, and you were a survivor of your own suicide attempt as a teenager. So I'm a huge advocate of mental health, outside support for mental health. I love seeing a therapist. I have learned in my own life that my depression is situational and it's not chemical. So if my depression was chemical, it would need to be treated with medication.
Yes.
So I'm grateful that I understand that, and that I can take various steps around depression when it shows up. Mindfulness, healthy eating, all kinds of things you can do around that issue. Yeah. Have you discovered have you come to understand more fully your own depression? Does it still happen? And how do you deal with it?
So great questions. I don't deal with depression anymore. It's for a few reasons. I've gone on the offensive, and I've built boundaries and barriers around my heart. The Bible even talks about guarding your heart, right? So I've done a great job of guarding my heart, putting things in place that act as guardians to make sure that certain things don't get in my heart or in my mind to take me into that negative space. It became when I learned a simple truth, that is, you choose to respond to something. So 2 people can go through the same situation. One person can come out of it feeling depressed, isolated, and lonely. The other person come out feeling ambiguous but joyful, still maintaining their joy, still finding the higher ground, finding purpose. And that is all decision. But it's about the muscle that you've developed in it. So if you work enough on self-love, and you're able to strengthen yourself enough that when things happen, you don't respond so quickly in the negative, because that's the easy way to go. The weaker way to go, okay, if we were lifting weights, the weaker way to go is to drop the weight. That's the weaker way to go. You just drop the weight. And that's negative, right? That's just drop the weight. You see people in the gym, they just drop weights. The stronger way, the more powerful way is to lift it. And when you lift it, you're lifting your energy, you're lifting your vibration, you're showing the strength that you've already developed, not trying to get it in that moment, but already done the work for it. And that's why I'm not in that space now. And I think that's the only reason, is because I keep doing the work to maintain it.
Hey, that's good, but I wanted to, dive more deeply into that.
Yes.
Is that your correct Instagram handle?
That's it.
Because you have a really fantastic Instagram stream, and I want people to find out about it. I'm going to show them another shot of your website, and you can find all of the books and coaching opportunities with Byron at ByronJamal.com. I actually would love to throw it back to you, Byron, to see if there's anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to address, or something we have talked about that you would like to emphasize.
I think if I were to say anything right here, I would simply say that you are worth the love that you seek. And that is so important to me, because a lot of us seek lower levels of love because we don't feel worthy of them. But you are worthy of whatever you seek. And that is the secret, that if you can start believing that you are worthy of higher love, you will be worthy of higher love. Nothing changes. Nothing changes your worth. Nothing changes your value. No mistakes, no issues, no challenges, no past blunders. No matter how many people you've hurt, you are born with amazing love. You are born worthy, and you will die just as worthy no matter how you die. So just remember to hold on to your worth. You can always reclaim how amazingly worthy you are if you just walk back into it.
So behind you there was oohs and ahs, and then the choir was going, "Bring me a higher love."
Hey, come on.
Right. So anyway, I'm really glad my path has crossed with yours. I've loved our conversation. I hope you have too. And I appreciate who you are in the world.
Thank you so much.
If you hang tight, I'll talk to you just briefly after the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So everybody, I hope that you've enjoyed my conversation with Byron. I interviewed him for an hour, and Paul wanted me to ask about dating sites. I didn't get through to that. Sorry about that. We'll do that another time, Paul. It's a great topic. And for those of you who are watching at home, I really appreciate your support. You can find over 50 episodes at PromoHomo.TV, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, 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 oh. Don't you ever stop smiling. It's too contagious.